How is everybody doing? We're back once again. I can't believe it. What I can't believe is how late in the day this now is. It's 3 o'clock here in the UK, so we're logging on. We're ready to go once again for yet another online bass lesson. I hope you guys are okay. I hope you're really enjoying the sessions. Let me get comfortable. Give us a wave in the chat, please, guys. Let me know that I'm live. And then once I'm live and I've got a few people watching, yeah, there you go. Paul's up. He's ready for number 7. I can see the number count going up. We are live. Cheers, guys. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's really good. Right. Just going to give it a few minutes, everyone, just to log on. Give you a little funk while we're waiting. Hey, Mark. Whatever. Hi, guys. Good afternoon and welcome to, would you believe it, the penultimate lesson. I'm gutted. I actually genuinely have absolutely 100% loved these sessions over the last couple of days. I hope you guys have equally had an absolutely awesome time. Let's just remind everybody why we're here, because there's going to be some new faces. Every time there's a lesson here, there's a couple of new guys pop up that I haven't seen before. Marty Wild, you'll join us today. That's really nice. Mark Bell. So we got Chicago in the house. We got London in the house. We got Hamburg in the house. This is good. This is really nice. That's good. Now, let me tell you about what has been going on, because you guys have been part of one of the most fabulous things that I've seen from a British company during the entire lockdown period. Mark Gooday, Dan Lee, the entire Ashdown team last week teamed up with Liam Gallagher's manager to do NHS Fest. NHS Fest was a raffle. Loads and loads of cool gear was sent off, and they have now raised in excess of, this is quite an unbelievable figure, £160,000. It's like £200,000 US, I think it is. What an amazing feat of fundraising. I love this because I've had family members directly affected by the COVID during this period. So as a result, you think about all those masks, all the gowns, everything that the NHS will be able to use that funding for in our fight against this horrible virus. So can we please show some love for Ashdown and the team and everything that they have achieved in the last week. The thing is that an awful lot of people contributed to those to that raffle. So I reached out to Mark Gooday and Dan and said, hey, look, let's give something back. Everyone was they're all in it. Let's give something back. And what we're going to give back is what turned into an entire weekend of bass lessons. This is session number 7, the penultimate lesson, which is unbelievable. I can't believe we've got this far this quickly. And we got one more lesson left in 2 hours' time, and then we are done. I hope you guys have really enjoyed the weekend. I hope you've got loads and loads out of it, and everyone's got a few little things. Even if you knew some of the stuff, I'm sure there would have been a few little insights that you kind of have been able to add to your arsenal of bass vocabulary, which is going to be fantastic. After these sessions, please make sure that you pop across to With Bass in Mind. With Bass in Mind is me. It's my online tuition site. Over there, I'm sharing these videos, but when I share those videos, I'm also putting support documents underneath them. So if you want a PDF to accompany all of these notes so that you haven't just got to try and memorize it all, you can go and pick up the PDF, and that'd be great. There's also loads of transcriptions over there. Every week I do a transcription challenge, which is when I go, right, here we go. Here is my lesson for today. Last week was Deantown by Wolfpack. The week before that was Joe Frazier by Jeff Berlin. And this week is Ian Duran of Blockheads, Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. So if you remember that wicked 16th note bass line that was performed by one of my very first heroes, Norman Watt Roy, who I actually ended up teaching his nephew, which was incredible. Actually, I've done a few famous nephews. I taught Pino Palladino's son as well to play bass. How awkward is that? Hi, yeah, I'm teaching. Why don't you go and ask Dad? But I taught Alan, who was Norman Watt Roy's nephew, which was amazing because I got to play on that famous PJ configuration Fender that played the Hit Me With a Rhythm Stick bass line. But that actually was posted because of a lovely conversation I had with my tutor, who was the first guy that introduced me to that bass line, a lovely chap called Paul Scott, back in about 1998. And Paul and one of his work colleagues, a guy called Rob Burns, who actually turned into a kind of a father figure for me. Rob set up my very first ever endorsement. I was off touring with U2, like a U2 tribute band, not U2. And the U2 tribute band, and I wanted a back line, and he put me in contact with Trace Elliott, which was Mark Gooday, and Mark is now the head and the captain at Ashdown Engineering. So that's the tedious link to why I ended up here, because you guys will know me from Scott's Bass Lessons. You'll know me from Bass Guitar Magazine, Bass Player Magazine, and all that stuff, and all my books. But today I'm on Ashdown, and this is why. It's purely because of that connection with Mark. We wanted to give something back to you guys for all your wonderful, wonderful contributions to that 160,000, say it again, 160,000 pounds that Ashdown have raised. So let's talk about the breadcrumbs. Let's talk about where we are right now, because I think a couple of you have been with me for every lesson over this weekend, which is amazing. I used to have like one 1 hour lesson every 2 weeks. You guys have had 8 hours in 8 hours tuition in 24 hours, I think, which is, yeah, good luck. You're going to be exhausted. If we go right back to the very first lesson we did was all about scales. We started playing a simple major scale. There's a major scale. One of the things that we really tried to work on was the ability to play a major scale, but think outside the box. As an example, when you go to sort of a music college or something like that, it's very, very easy to kind of shoebox. So scales have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And this can be really detrimental to your playing, because what happens is that there's a lot more notes that are associated to the same key that live outside that. That's actually one of the reasons that when I developed my range of basses, these are the Philman signature models, with Overwater, you'll see that they're 24 frets. Do you see that? Look, there's 12 frets, which is the standard bass, but I've got another 12 frets that goes up to there. Now, the reason I did that was because I want to be able to see, like, my head, OCD, but also the way I process music. I go, right, there is one octave. I should be able to play the same thing there, okay? The other thing here is that I've got like a G stop. If you play double bass, you know that if you run your hand down the back of the neck, your thumb hits the heel. If you put your finger down there, it should be a D. Yeah, or some of them are E flat, but you get different types of, and they call that a stop, D stop or E stop. Well, I wanted that on my bass. So if I run my hand up here, when my hand hits the heel, that should be fret 24. And that's kind of where my design comes from. They look a little bit like a Scott bass, Scott Divine signature. They actually are nothing like a Scott Divine bass at all. 34-inch, 24 frets, active, passive, Bartolini circuitry in the custom one with all the blocks and stuff like that. The spacing also is 18 mil. I think Scott's are a little 32-inch thing with 16 mil space and something like that, and they're all passive and very, very different basses. So don't be fooled by the colours. Actually, that's a complete coincidence, because as you see with this one, this is a rosewood board with an ash top. That actually was based on a 1976 Fender Jazz bass that I had, which was a parts bass. I had a neck that had been bolted to a body, because normally it should be ash and maple or rosewood and alder. And what I had was a rosewood neck bolted to an ash body. And it was that design that I used in my basses. So yeah, they black with a natural body, but the truth of the matter is they're actually very different instruments. So check them out. Go on to the Ashdown overwaterbase.com, and you'll be able to check out what the basses are and how they're designed. But it was all about me being able to see 2 complete octaves. It was something that I really wanted. So when we did the first lesson today, I taught formulas. And the formulas, the idea of teaching formulas was that it will enable you to transcend up the bass in a million different ways and not be restricted by that very simple little shape, okay, that a lot of people play. So hopefully that's something that has been really positive to a lot of people's playing. It also allows you to go behind the root note as opposed to starting on the root note and ascending all the time. So that was lesson 1. If this is something that you go, oh, that sounds pretty cool, go back and check that out, guys, okay? Now, lesson 2, we did harmonization using triads. Now, I used a wonderful analogy of playing with Van Morrison this year, whereby I was playing a chord progression. He wanted me to go to a 5 chord, and Van literally went, play the 5 chord. And I was like, okay, 5 chord. And it enabled me to be able to interpret what he wanted to hear from the band by using a thing called the Nashville numbering system. Now, that's when you play a scale, and off of every note of the scale, a different chord resides. Okay, now, this is what we did in lesson 2. Chords 1, 4, and 5 are all major triad. Chords 2, 3, and 6 are all minor triad. And chord 7 is diminished. So if you want to go back and review lesson 2, then you would have got this lovely order of triads. And then you can use those triads to make chord progressions. So if I said it's a 1, 6, 2, 5, you go 1, then go to the 6th note of the scale, and then play the associated triad, 2 and 5. And then that would be like going 1, 6, 2, 5. 1. Sounds like a song already, doesn't it? 6, 2, 5. And in those chords, 1, 6, 2, 5. You can use those triads to form your bass lines. That's what that knowledge was all about. So we did those 2 things, and then we started getting a little bit more full on. And we looked at lesson 3, which was the pentatonic modes. Now, pentatonic scales are a scale that has the semitones removed. When you take the semitone out of a scale, you get this kind of this wonderful sound, which is, it's very difficult to play a wrong note. I know it sounds ridiculous, but look, if I play a G major chord, and if I play a G major scale, there's a lot of texture in it. If I take the semitones out, you can hear straight away that it becomes very usable. It's a very melodic shape. We took the pentatonic scales and we learnt it through 5 modal shapes. And then I encourage you guys to go make a groove up and then do a bass fill from, say, the 2nd position. And then do a bass fill from the 3rd position. Back, and now do a bass fill from the 4th position. Where's the 4th position? The idea is that eventually, brick by brick, you'll be able to build this lovely wall of sort of vocabulary where you're using those positions. Our 4th lesson took us into linear shapes. And this was whereby, if you look at a scaling shape, using a habitual pattern, sometimes it can be really, it's not very inspiring. You kind of, what can I do with these shapes? So if you play them linearly, it allows you to really transcend over the bass without kind of stretching yourself too hard. Now, we did that for Mixolydian and Dorian specifically, and that's because they were a 2 and a 5 chord when you do that harmonization stuff we spoke about. So the Dorian and Mixolydian stuff was then kind of echoed in today's lessons. First lesson today is we spoke about the Gershwin Changes. Now, Mark Bell's just popped on. Mark, give us a wave. Mark's just been doing the Gershwin Changes with me, actually, private one-to-one lessons, because I do Skype lessons all the time, guys. Any of you guys want some extra help in, your bass studies, or just want to continue this relationship? You're getting this for free now, but you might as well hang out with me. Then drop me an email and we can book up a one-to-one Skype lesson. They're really cool, really cool. We get an awful lot done, which is we like. There's nothing wrong with that now, but it's not what we're talking about now. When we talked about rhythm changes were this wonderful thing that came about because of Gershwin. George Gershwin, in I Got Rhythm, the B section, is this fantastic cycle of fourths that go minor 7, dominant 7, minor 7, dominant 7, minor 7, dominant 7. And those chord progressions actually became the basis for a million songs, from Ladybird to Tune Up to Solar to Minority to Satin Doll, all those jazz tunes, big band tunes, all that stuff, all was based upon the cycle of fourth and Gershwin. Now, that cycle of fourths was when you go around this cycle, because a cycle of fourths is this, if you start on a note and then just keep playing fourths, you'll eventually come back to the same note. So it enables you to play, first of all, an exercise in every single key. Second of all, you learn the Gershwin, which is a million jazz songs immediately. And third of all, you not just every key, but every position on the instrument. So you really do get a wonderful understanding of the cycle of fourths. It's a fantastic exercise. So what I did with everyone is I said, right, cycle of fourths. This is lesson 5 of the Ashdown isolation sessions. The first exercise was taking a minor 7, which is a 2 chord, which is also the Dorian mode from lesson 4, around the cycle of fourths. And then we did the dominant arpeggio, which is chord number 5, which is also Mixolydian. That was from lesson 4 as well. And we took that around the cycle of fourths. And then once I finished with that, I then combined the two. And we actually produced what's referred to as the rhythm changes. And that was when you go minor, dominant. So I'm still doing a cycle of fourths, but I'm alternating. I go minor, dominant, stay in position, minor, dominant, stay in position, minor, then move, dominant, stay in position, minor, dominant, stay. And you get this wonderful exercise. And that's it. That is the cycle of fourths in Gershwin. So go and check that out. I'm tired just telling you what we did. Okay, right now. Lesson number 6. This was the last one. This was what we did at 1 o'clock BST today. And that was permutations. Lorna, who's an Ashdown endorser, she dropped us an email because obviously you guys requested all of this information. I've merely put it into a course to make it, a usable source of material. And she said, what do you do to get out of a rut? Do you know when you kind of get a little bit stuck and you don't know what to practice next, or maybe you want some warm-up exercises or something to get your hands going? Well, this was the last lesson. I can't stand these sort of aerobic finger yoga exercises that some people do. I've seen, oh God. Good for you. I don't recall any songs other than stuff that was played by Slipknot that sounded like that. So I basically said, look, here's some exercises. These shapes you can play that are actually melodic. So your hand will be duplicating patterns that you will see in songs around a chord progression that is relevant to things like Gershwin and cycle of fourths. So it's very, very usable 2-5-1s. And that was, you play a triad, root, third, fifth, but then there's 6 different ways you can play that triad. Root, third, fifth, root, fifth, third. Third, root, fifth, third, fifth, root, 3, 1, 5, 3, 5, 1, 5, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. 6 different ways, okay? I think I did more than 6 just then. I don't know, I'm getting tired. And you take each one of those around the entire cycle of fourths, okay? So you're going to go root, third, fifth. This was just all major triads, okay? That's a great warm-up exercise. Everything you're playing is melodically correct. So they're triads. It's all chord tone based. And you're playing them in all 12 keys around the cycle of fourths. That's what you should be warming up to. And that's what you should be playing if you want to develop skills and stamina and stuff which is actually melodically correct. Then you just play different permutations. 3, 1, 5. Take that around the cycle of fourths. Like so. There we go. And then you can do it for minor, you can do it for major. There's also augmented and diminished. Everything was just triad, nothing else, okay? But, you know, it's a basis that you can take further away. Now, the next question that was sent to me was by Daniel. Oh, what was it? Person, I think. Daniel Person, or something like that. Guy from Australia. Anzac Day yesterday, obviously, guys. So at least we forget. Let's make sure we acknowledge that as well. But Daniel asked me, what are chord extensions and how can I use them, because it was a bit complicated. And that is what we're going to start today's session on. So if you've got a pen and paper, grab a pen and paper, okay, because you're going to need it. Or I'm going to do it here with the no expenses spared, with bears in mind, pad of A4 paper. I should get it stamped, shouldn't I? Branded. Oh, that's a good cup of tea. Right, now, let's talk about what extensions are, because they do have a place and they're very, very cool. Should you want to produce some tensions that aren't predictable? Okay, right, let's talk about predictability first of all. If I play a chord, that's cool, that's a G major chord. Now, as a bassist, it's very common that you guys might play the associated scale here. There we go. And then some of you might learn it, you know, like the arpeggio. Okay, so you kind of learn, okay, yeah. And you're playing root, third, fifth, and seventh. Okay, that's the Teratan way of producing chords that are stacked in thirds. But there is a way where you can get some really cool tensions very easily. Check this out. So what I'm doing here is accessing a slightly different vocabulary and then returning back to our root. And it's done very, very easily. But I want you to understand the theory, okay? Because I'm a good teacher, I hope, and I don't want you just to get licks and not know where they came from, because that's really counterproductive, okay? You need to make sure that you know, you understand what you're playing. You're not just playing a shape all the time. So we're going to do some harmony and theory. That's what I mean. This lesson's a little bit more chilled out. It's like Sunday afternoon now, yeah? So it's slightly less notes. Let's take a C major scale, okay? Right, now here is the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, ta-da, there it is. That's the C major scale. Now, when I create a C major scale, it's produced from that formula, and that was the formula that you did way back in lesson 1 yesterday at 11 a.m., okay? The thing is, though, is that triads and chords are produced teratan, which means stacking thirds. So if I stack a thirds, I take the first note, okay, here's the first note, which is a C. And then the third is basically you play one, miss one, play one. So a third higher than C is E. Like so. And then a third higher than E would be G. Follow the pattern, okay? There we go. And then a third higher than G would be B. There you go. Now that is your root, your third, and your fifth. And that's the seventh. That's how chords are produced. So when you hear a major chord or a major seventh chord, a major chord is the root, third, and the fifth played together. And then a major seventh is the root, third, and fifth, and the seventh added. That's how we produce it. So we've had this continual stack of thirds. And this is the harmony that you guys will probably be most associated with. And if I play a major chord, here's a major chord, and I play a scale. There's my scale. And I'm going to play the roots, the third, the fifth. You can hear it matches the chord perfectly. And then the seventh. The seventh produces quite a lot of dissonance, doesn't it? It's because it's a semitone away from the octave. Okay. There's my major stuff. Okay, now, here's the thing. If I continue this way of stacking thirds, what's the next note? Because C is the next note of the scale, but that's not a third away. If I do B, remember you play one, miss one, play one. So you play one, miss one, play one. And that's why all harmony in theory, music, is conducted over 2 octaves, not 1. That's the reason why I'm a little bit, dictatorial about getting outside of that little box. Because actually harmony in theory is over 2 octaves anyway. So you should be aware of this. Let's do a second octave. D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Here's our second octave. Now we can continue the pattern, can't we? Because B, play one, miss the C, play the D. D, play one, miss the D, miss the E, play the F. And then F, play one, and miss one, and you hit the A. Now, the great thing is that if you continue this pattern, my art skills are amazing until that moment. If we continue this pattern, there we go, of playing one, miss one, play one. So we started off on C, play one, miss one, play one, E, miss one, play one, G, miss one, play one, B. That is our major seventh arpeggio. But now, miss one, play one. What note's that? It's not a second, because it's now, that's the seventh note. So that's got to be the ninth. Miss one, play one. That's now the fourth up an octave, which is called an 11th. Miss one, play one. That is the sixth up an octave, and that is a 13th. So what we're left with now is 3 cool shapes, 3 cool notes that are all extensions. There's the extensions, the pink guys. Okay, so the major seventh arpeggio is C, E, G, and B. And then the extensions in the second octave are D, F, and A. Now this, again, is very, very well recorded information. The first octave commonly gets referred to as simple. A bit like me, okay? Simple intervals, but the second octave is compound. And it's simple plus compound, which allows you to go from the C to the C, stacking thirds. You have to have it over 2 octaves. And that's how it works. How cool is that, guys? Now, that means that we've got 1, 3, 5, right, in Roman numerals, 1, 3, 5, 7, but now 9, 11, and 13 My brain went to sleep with the Roman numerals, so I just wrote them as numbers. There you go. So there's your 7th arpeggio, which is C, E, G, and B, and your extensions are 9, 11, and 13. And there you go. That's how you get extensions. All right. So it's not simply a second up an octave. It's not a 4th up an octave. It has a direct correspondence to both octaves so that you can stack thirds to create the entire range of the chord. Right. There's a problem. What's the problem? Well, the problem is what's referred to as available extensions and non-available extensions. Okay, right. Everyone needs tea. Right, now, if we play C, the arpeggio we just did there, which was C, root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. Now, what you can say, think of it as the 2nd is the 9 up an octave, the 11 is the 4th up an octave, and the 6th up an octave is the 13th. Okay, but there's a problem. The problem is the tensions. Now, imagine, I don't know, you sit on the subway, or no, I've spent a bit too much time in America. If you're on the tube or on the subway, and you're in an empty carriage, and then some guy is late, the carriage is empty. Someone comes on and they sit right next door to you. Have you ever had that? Do you know? And you kind of look at me and go, what are you doing? You could have sat anyway. Why have you got to sit right there? They get in your personal space and it creates a bit of tension, right? That's actually what's happening with notes. If you have a note, if a note is really close to another note, it clashes. That's why if I do this, G major chord, play this note, you can hear immediately it sounds a little bit tense because it wants to resolve to that note. That's the relationships we're talking about. Now, the 4th is right next door to the 3rd. There's a semitone between them. So what happens is these two guys don't like each other. They're fighting, and it creates that tension, what you just heard, okay? So that means that the 4th up an octave, the 11th, is what's referred to as an unavailable extension. You don't want to play it because it's going to clash, okay? So what they do is they correct it, and they raise it by a semitone. So what was an F, C, D, F in the lower octave, when it's played in the 2nd octave, has become an F sharp, and it's a sharp 11, okay? And that is so there is a bigger distance between the E and the F, and it sounds nicer. That's it. It's that easy, okay? Well, this is the bit where all of a sudden you go, oh, wow, okay. Here are my extensions. This is a major 7th chord, C major 7th to be exact. C, E, G, and B are the 7th chord. The extensions are 9, sharp 11, and 13. Okay, those notes are a D, an F sharp, and an A. If you play on your bass D, F sharp, and then an A, it's nothing more than a major triad. So, I can do that. Those 3 notes are a major triad. D, F sharp, and A. How cool is that? So if you're playing a C chord, that's a C major chord. All I have to do is go to D. That's the 9th. You can hear it, can't you? It's really pretty. Then you can play the sharp 11 and the 13. All I'm playing in my head is a D major triad. But what you're hearing is the 9, the sharp 11, there it is, and finally the 13. So if I play just C major tones, sounds all inside and pretty. And then if I go to the 9 and play a D major triad, I start getting some of the extensions. It's nice, isn't it? You get some really nice tones here. Really, really, really usable pitches. If you just play a C major chord, then you just have to go up a tone and play a major triad. That's it. Remember, the sharp 11 has been sharpened so that there's more distance between the third and the fourth because they're too close. So that becomes sharp 11. And it makes it an available extension. So these are all the available extensions. 9, sharp 11 and 13 when you're playing a major chord. So how would you use this? Well, if you want to go and do a video, which I'm kind of hoping that everybody will do and get stuck in with, okay? Do this. Let's take the key of G, all right? You're in G major. Play a G major pentatonic. We did that in lesson 3. Yeah, your G major modes of pentatonic.